So this is a story of a holiday when I found myself in the dark, in the desert, in Egypt. So I was on holiday with my friend Sam on a cruise down the Nile. And we had just finished dinner and we were having a few drinks in the bar. And the cruiser had anchored up on the banks of the Nile, really sort of in the middle of nowhere. And there wasn't any monuments to be seen or anything. And we had been told that they had put the gangplank down, but we weren't to go out. It was just to take on some supplies. And of course, we had other ideas, particularly Sam. And we had our jalubas on, which is the Arabic dress that Arab men wear. And we decided that we would go for a walk. So off we went down the gangplank and started walking. And of course, it was very, very dark, being actually in the middle of the desert, which we had appeared in. So there was no street lights, no nothing. But there was one light in the far distance. So we decided to go towards this light. And we eventually got there and we were going down this dusty track and we're slightly worse for the wear after a few gins in the bar. But anyway, we eventually got to this, what we would call a sort of ramshackle of a building. And it seemed to be some kind of bar, cafe, not quite sure. But anyway, there was lots of Arab men, particularly, sitting around chatting, drinking, smoking those big hubbly bubblies. And they looked at us with quite amusement. But they sort of waved us in. So we went and sat down. And we ordered a drink. We hadn't a clue what it was. And we had this drink sitting. And the next thing, this very beautiful young Arab boy appeared and came and sat with us. And he spoke very good English and started chatting. And then Sam went to the toilet. And this young man said to me, he said, could you do me a favor? So I said to him, well, if I could, I would. And he proceeded to tell me that he had fallen in love with this man who he had met 6 months ago, who was from Holland. And they had been writing to each other off and on. And he had invited him to come and live with him in Amsterdam. And he said, I've got all these letters. Would you read them to see if this guy is genuine? So, of course, I was slightly three sheets to the wind. And I said, oh, yes, 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 yes. And then Sam came back from the toilet and I explained to him. And of course, I thought this young man had the letters with him, but he didn't. And the next thing, half an hour later, I'm now walking further into the desert and we get to his village. And well, I couldn't really call it a village. Basically, it was about 6 houses and sort of one street. So anyway, proceeded to go walk along here and we went into this house. I went through the door. Actually, there was no door, it was just a curtain. And we walked into the hallway and there was all these sheep and goats in the hallway. So we sort of shuffled our way through these and went upstairs and went into this bedroom. And I sort of stood there thinking this is quite surreal because the whole room was covered in 1950s wallpaper. There was a huge walnut wardrobe, a huge walnut bed, and a dressing table. And I thought, this is most odd. Anyway, the young man went to the wardrobe, took this box out with all these letters. And he said, here's the letters. He sat down in the bed and he gestured for me to sit beside him. So I started reading all these letters. And it was clear that this man was devoted to this young man and full of love. And he said, well, come and stay with me, come and live with me, and we will have a wonderful life together, etc. And he had businesses and his own house. And what struck me was, I thought, it's very odd because they're not written on nice cards or good stationery or even reasonable stationery. They were written on those jotters that have the spiral on the top. And when you pull them, all little jagged edges remain. And they were all like that. And I thought, that's very strange. Anyway, this young man's now staring at me and I'm thinking, what on earth do I say? So I thought, well, I can't tell him not to go and I can't tell him really to go. So I thought for a moment and I said, okay, will you promise me one thing? if you do go, will you take enough money with you to get a return flight to Egypt? So there was sort of stunned silence. And then he said, thank you very much. He took the letters, put them in the box, put them back in the wardrobe. And he said, now I want you to meet my mother. So we go downstairs and we go into this other room through another curtain. And suddenly we're in this room, and there must have been about 20 or 30 women sitting around, eating and drinking and sewing things. And some of them had burqas on, some didn't. And then this young man brought this lady forward and introduced me as his mother. She couldn't speak any English. And she was all laughing. And then we had to have tea. And in the middle of this room, there's also lots of sheep and goats wandering around. And then suddenly in my head, I thought, Ken, you are in the middle of Egypt, in the desert. You don't know where you are. You don't know what time it is. And the ship or the cruiser may go without you. And you don't even know how to get back there. And with that, suddenly I hear, Ken, Ken, Ken. And it's Sam. He had found his way there. How he did it, I'd actually never found out. So I sort of popped my head through the curtain, which is the door, and said, come in, come in, come in, come in, come in. So he came in, and so then he was introduced to Mother, and we all sat round and had tea, and it was great fun. And we hadn't a clue what they were talking about, but everybody seemed to be jolly. So then the young man said, oh, I will take you back to your ship, walk you back. So off we went through the darkness, and the skies, of course, there, the stars are amazing. And we got back to the ship, and we got back to the gangplank, and Sam walked up and said goodbye. And the young man took my hand and he kissed me in both cheeks and said, thank you so much. And I sort of walked up the gangplank, turned, and I watched him disappear into the desert and into the darkness. And I never saw him again. I never found out if he went to Amsterdam. That's the end.
Fantastic.
Thanks very much, Kenneth. That was so lovely to hear. Gosh, what a lovely and poignant moment that of your holiday. What year was that?
I wouldn't like to say, but I was
2015.
roughly about 20. But this is a photograph of me.
Okay. Yeah. Oh yeah, do you have a photo? Oh, there you are.
There we
In
are.
front of the pyramids.
Very
Fantastic.
dodgy, very dodgy trousers.
Yes, we all remember those.
Thank you very much.